recognized the head on the pole in St. Margaret's churchyard and went to see Mrs. Catherine Hayes.
Yes? Oh, it's Mr. Ashby, isn't it?
I wasn't sure whether you remember me.
Oh, yes. You knew my husband before we moved here.
Is your husband in, Mrs. Hayes?
No. Arthur's away.
Oh? May I know where?
Portugal.
You're sure, Mrs. Hayes? I have reason to doubt it. But perhaps you can convince me. Why has he gone to Portugal?
It's a sad story, Mr. Ashby. Some time ago, my Arthur fought with a man. The man died from the blows Arthur struck, and his wife was going to the constables about it. But finally she agreed to say nothing, on Arthur's promising to pay a certain annual allowance to her. Recently, Arthur lost a lot of money. He could no longer pay the woman the money, so he has fled to Portugal.
I see. Thank you, Mrs. Hayes.
Good day.
Ashby quickly repaired to the Eagle Tavern to meet his friend Reg Longmore, and there told him what Catherine Hayes had said, explaining also that he was sure that the head in St. Margaret's churchyard was that of Catherine's husband. Between them they decided to test her story, which is the reason that Longmore visited the lady that afternoon, pretending that he was a friend of Arthur's. He was told the same story. Almost.
But then, you see, Mr.
Longmore, ma'am.
Mr. Longmore, my poor husband lost an amount of money so that he could no longer afford to pay this widow the allowance. In the end, against my wishes, of course, he decided to leave the city.
And where did he go, ma'am? Oh, I wouldn't tell anyone, you understand, but I would like to make contact with him, if possible.
North of London, sir. He gave me no more exact address, but I think he is in Hertfordshire County.
Oh, indeed. Well, thank you, Mrs. Hayes. You've been most helpful.
And she never mentioned Portugal once?
No, not once. Oh, she was not quite certain, but she thought he was in Hertfordshire. I think you're right about this affair, John.
Well, I'm sure of it. Something else has happened since I saw you to confirm me in my suspicions.
Oh?
I went to see a rogue called Billings after you left me. He's a tailor and lodges in Arthur Hayes' house. I asked him if he'd seen the head in St. Margaret's churchyard.
Well, go on.
He said he hadn't. Whereupon I disclosed that I was sure it was his landlord's. And you know what was his reply? He cried, "Nonsense. How could the head be his? I left him well in bed when I came to work this morning."
John, we can go no further in the matter, for we cannot take the law into our own hands. Justice Lambert's the man for us.
You speak truth, Reg, though I'm determined to be there when they make the arrest.
On being told the story, Mr. Justice Lambert decided that there was a prima facie case against Catherine Hayes, and that he would attend to the arrest himself. Summoning the assistance of 2 officers of the Life Guards, and followed by Ashby and Longmore, he appeared at Mrs. Hayes' lodgings at 9 o'clock that night. With no ceremony, they walked upstairs to a room.
Open in the name of the law.
Who's there?
Open in the name of the law.
As soon as I have put up his clothes.
Hurry then, madam. Officer, have you the casket I gave you as we set out?
Yes, Your Worship, I have it here.
It shall perhaps be required before this episode is through. Now, madam, are you prepared?
What do you want?
Officers, seize her.
Look, there's Billings sitting on her bed.
Thomas Billings, eh? I have a warrant for your arrest also.
Make up another of your stories, Billings.
Billings has been mending his stockings.
His eyesight must be extremely good then, seeing that there is neither fire nor candle in the room.
Why are we being arrested?
Officer, give me that box.
Here you are, Your Worship.
Lift out its grisly contents. There, madam. Do you not recognize this?
Oh, it is my dear husband.
Here now, wife.
That's better. In my arms like this instead of that box. I must have a lock of his hair. Oh.
She's fainted.
She has perhaps seen too much of his blood already.
Wood was arrested the same night, and the 3 criminals were then taken to the Old Bailey to await trial. Billings was the first to speak out in the hope of being treated leniently. On his advice, Marylebone Pond was dragged, and the remaining limbs of Arthur Hayes were discovered. Wood then confessed also, but in spite of the whole ghastly crime being disclosed, Catherine Hayes maintained her innocence.
Catherine Hayes, your companions Wood and Billings have confessed to the murder of your husband, Arthur Hayes, and have pleaded guilty in the forthcoming trial. As examining magistrate, it is my duty to inform you that unless you alter your plea of not guilty, you will have to make a defense, for which, in due course, you will be provided counsel. The enormity of your alleged offense has induced the king, whose gracious majesty may God preserve, to direct the prosecution through no less a personage than the Attorney General.
In the trial that then took place, the Attorney General of England argued for the supreme penalty of the law in those days, hanging and then burning. The jury, in spite of Catherine's repeated cries that she was being wronged, brought in the verdict after only a few minutes.
Members of the jury, look on this woman. Do you find her guilty or not guilty of the foul crime with which she is charged?
We find her guilty.
My lord,
The female prisoner at the bar may speak.
you have found me guilty, but I did not strike the fatal blow. Billings and Woody have admitted to that themselves. If I must suffer hanging, surely in view of their confession, I may escape burning.
The request of the prisoner is denied. Catherine Hayes, you have been found guilty, by just process of law, of a most foul and heinous crime.
To be burnt after hanging was a fate reserved for women. Men were hanged and then suspended by chains near the scene of the crime. Although Catherine's second assistant, Wood, cheated the gallows by dying in Newgate the day before his appointed execution, the corpse of Thomas Billings was duly strung up near Marylebone Pond, where the remains of Arthur Hayes had been discovered. As to the chief instigator of the crime, her end was almost more horrible than that of her victim. On May the 9th, 1726, the crowd about Tyburn, in spite of the layer of snow on the ground, was so great that only a few could see the gallows. But among those few were John Ashby and Reg Longmore, more than a little proud of their share in the apprehension of no longer Kath or Catherine, but just the woman Hayes.
Here she comes, Reg. Can't see her face at the moment. Oh, they brought her on a sledge. Oh, wish they'd silence that bell.
It's the death knell from St. Sepulchre's Church. It'll stop when she dies.
See, they're chaining her to the stake.
First they'll strangle her and then light the faggots.
She looks calm. They've got the rope round her neck. Any moment now. She's up! Look, they lit the fire too soon. John, I can't see. They lit the fire too soon. The hangman ain't hands first and has to let the rope go. She's trying to kick the faggots away. She's being burnt alive, man. She's being burnt alive.
It is strange, perhaps, that fate should reserve such a death for such a woman. In any case, that was the macabre finale to the history of Catherine Hayes. Don't be too horrified by this story. It took place a long time ago, when it was much more difficult to keep a good head on your shoulders.